The Portia jumping spider. There's a spider in your garden right now that can outplan your cat, and it's doing it with a brain you could balance on a pinhead. We've been taught intelligence needs a big brain. This spider didn't get that memo. Portia fimbriata has a brain barely bigger than a poppy seed, and what it does when its first hunting strategy fails is what separates it from every other arachnid on Earth. Portia stalks other spiders, creeping onto their webs and plucking the silk to mimic trapped insects. The target comes running, expecting a meal, and becomes one instead. But here's what's wild. It doesn't use the same trick every time. It identifies the species it's hunting, assesses the web architecture, then selects from a repertoire of deceptive signals tailored to that target. If the first approach fails, it tries another. It plans winding detour routes to approach from behind, even when the path means losing sight of the target for over an hour. A brain the size of a poppy seed, running tactical deception. Your phone's smallest microchip has more physical space than this spider's entire nervous system, and yet it solves spatial planning problems that stump human 5-year-olds in lab tests. Most people assume spiders are mindless ambush hunters, running on instinct. Portia actively plans, adjusts, and deceives using what researchers call internal representation, basically a mental map. It spends hours planning a single ambush, which is more patience than most people bring to parallel parking. It's running tactical warfare with fewer neurons than you have in your thumbnail, and it's winning. The honeybee. The concept of zero took human civilization thousands of years to figure out. A honeybee does it in a day. And that's not even the most impressive thing their brain can do, with fewer neurons than you'd find in a grain of rice. Apis mellifera has fewer than 1 million neurons. Your brain has 86 billion. A dog has about 530 million. The honeybee has less than 1 million, and it's doing arithmetic. In a 2018 study published in Science, researchers trained honeybees to understand zero. Not just nothing is here, but zero as a quantity on a number line below 1. The bees placed it correctly. They grasped it better than human toddlers, who don't understand zero until around age 4. A follow-up in Science Advances showed bees can do basic addition and subtraction, associating blue with add 1 and yellow with subtract 1, getting it right 60 to 75% of the time. It does math better than some adults you know, and it doesn't even have a calculator app. Navigating complex environments, remembering flower locations, and communicating through waggle dances likely selected for this ability. Most people think bees just follow simple chemical signals and pheromone trails. They don't. Individual bees process quantity, perform math, and understand abstract numerical concepts, including absence itself. Researchers had to accept that their test subjects were outperforming preschoolers. 1 million neurons. That's all it took to crack a concept that stumped Babylonian mathematicians for centuries. The paper wasp. You use a chunk of your brain the size of a credit card just to tell your friends apart. This wasp does it with a brain smaller than a sesame seed. What researchers found when they started editing the faces is what made this study unsettling. Polistes fuscatus recognizes individual faces of colony members using holistic face processing, the same mechanism humans use. Its brain contains specialized cells that fire selectively for front-facing wasp images. Remove the antenna digitally, recognition collapses. Go grayscale, performance drops to pure chance. Imagine a wasp squinting at another wasp's face like it's checking an ID at a bar. That's essentially what's happening. Genomic sequencing revealed recent evolutionary adaptations in brain regions tied to learning and vision. Their genome literally rewired itself for facial recognition. This ability evolved specifically in populations with complex social hierarchies, where knowing who outranks you prevents costly refighting. Sister species without dominance hierarchies can't do this at all. Face recognition evolved because remembering who screwed you over is, apparently, worth dedicating brain cells to. Published in Proceedings of the Royal Society B, 2021. It remembers exactly which neighbor cheated, and it holds that grudge, which honestly sounds like most homeowners' associations. We spent millions building facial recognition software. A wasp colony had it running before we discovered electricity. Turns out the hardware for facial recognition doesn't need a primate skull. It just needs a reason to remember who screwed you over. The Archerfish. You've probably struggled to remember a coworker's name. This fish, with no neocortex at all, picks your face out of a lineup. The accuracy rate is what makes neuroscientists uncomfortable. Toxotes chattarius was trained to spit jets of water at a specific human face displayed on a monitor above its tank. When presented with the learned face among 44 new ones, it nailed it 81% of the time. Then they standardized brightness, color, and head shape, removing every easy shortcut. Accuracy went up to 86%. Evolution gave this fish a water gun and facial recognition, but forgot to give it a neocortex, the entire brain region humans and primates rely on for this exact task. Archerfish hunt by spitting calibrated water jets at insects above the waterline. That visual system, tuned for sniping bugs off leaves, turned out to be powerful enough to distinguish dozens of human faces. Published in Scientific Reports, 2016, University of Oxford. Facial recognition technology took Silicon Valley billions of dollars and decades of machine learning. Your phone's Face ID runs 600 billion operations per second. This fish does it with biological hardware that runs on plankton. It can pick your face out of a crowd of 44, and it doesn't even like you. No cortex, no mammalian wiring, just a fish that knows your face better than your Uber driver does. The Dung Beetle. You need GPS to find a restaurant 3 blocks away. This beetle navigates by starlight, and it's rolling a ball of dung while it does it. What happened when researchers put them inside a planetarium changed everything we thought about insect cognition. A grain of rice brain navigating by starlight. Another memo that never arrived. Scarabaeus zambesianus is the first animal ever documented navigating by the Milky Way. Not individual stars, the actual galaxy. In a 2013 study published in Current Biology, Marie Dacca at Lund University placed dung beetles inside a planetarium. Full starry sky projected, beetles rolled in perfect straight lines. Milky Way removed, the beetles wandered. The beetle climbs on top of its dung ball and performs a little orientation dance, spinning to take a mental snapshot of the sky. Then it locks onto the Milky Way as a compass heading and rolls. Scientists built a planetarium for dung beetles, then had to explain to a budget committee why they needed it. Here's the pressure. Competition. Other beetles will steal your dung ball if you don't move fast and straight. A straight line is the fastest escape, and the Milky Way provides a stable reference even on moonless nights. Researchers put tiny cardboard caps on their heads to block the sky. Beetles immediately lost all direction, rolling confused circles. Remove the caps, straight lines again. Ancient Polynesian navigators used star patterns to cross the Pacific. It took centuries of human civilization to develop celestial navigation. This beetle does it instinctively, with roughly 100,000 neurons. The first animal ever proven to navigate by the Milky Way isn't a whale, a bird, or a seal. It's a beetle rolling a ball of poop. If you're enjoying learning about the hidden brain power in these tiny creatures, subscribing really helps support the channel. I've got plenty more where this came from. Thanks. The Coconut Octopus. Tool use was supposed to be the thing that separated smart animals from everything else. Then researchers found a 3-inch octopus carrying around a portable house. It's not the tool use that shocked them. It's what the octopus does with the shells when nothing's threatening it. Amphioctopus marginatus excavates coconut shell halves from the ocean floor and carries them up to 65 feet using an awkward stilt-walking gait, tiptoeing on its arm tips with the shells tucked underneath. When threatened, it assembles 2 halves into a spherical hiding place and pulls itself inside. But here's what made Julian Finn's 2009 Current Biology study land so hard. The octopus carries those shells even when nothing's wrong. It accepts slower, conspicuous travel now for protection it might need later. That's future planning, something thought exclusive to humans and great apes. Researchers call this future planning in an invertebrate, which is code for, we didn't think this was possible and we're still processing it. Most people assume octopus intelligence is all about their big central brain. It's not. 2/3 of an octopus's 500 million neurons are in its arms. Each arm processes information independently. The arms make their own decisions, and the central brain often doesn't know what they're doing. Chimps use sticks to fish for termites. Crows bend wire into hooks. This octopus carries a disassembled shelter across the ocean floor and builds it on demand. Carrying your home with you everywhere is the most relatable thing any octopus has ever done. It planned ahead, it carried the cost, it built the shelter, and it did all of it with a body that fits in your palm. The leafcutter ant. Humans invented farming about 12,000 years ago, and we still can't stop arguing about how to do it. Leafcutter ants figured it out 50 million years ago with a brain smaller than a pinhead. What they do when the crop gets sick is what separates them from every other insect on the planet. Adocephalotes doesn't eat the leaves it cuts. It carries fragments back to underground chambers to feed a specific fungus the colony cultivates, their sole food source. Colonies contain up to 8 million workers in specialized castes, millions of tiny ants, each carrying a leaf fragment like a green parasol, running the most organized supply chain on the planet. But when the fungal garden gets infected, they apply antimicrobial compounds produced by bacteria they carry on their bodies. They use antibiotics. Leafcutter ants were farming with antimicrobial pest control tens of millions of years before Alexander Fleming stumbled onto penicillin. Evolution gave them antibiotics 50 million years early, and they never once filed a patent. Individual ants have roughly 250,000 neurons. Colony-level intelligence emerges from millions of workers following simple rules that produce behavior sophisticated enough to survive every extinction event since the dinosaurs. A single colony processes more vegetation per day than a full-grown cow. Their underground chambers span 600 square feet, all run by individuals with less processing power than a single pixel on your TV has transistors. They've been running a flawless agricultural operation for 50 million years. We've had ours for 12,000, and we're still losing topsoil. Maybe the real intelligence test isn't how big your brain is, it's how long your system survives. The bumblebee. Teaching a dog to fetch a ball takes weeks. Researchers taught a bumblebee to score a goal, and it figured out a better strategy than the one it was shown. The moment they improved on their teacher's technique is what made this study land in science. Bombus terrestris was trained to push a small ball to a target area for a sugar reward. Then, the researchers added observation. Bees that watched a trained demonstrator learned the task much faster. Every single observer learned successfully, but when tested alone, they didn't just copy, they optimized. The demonstrator pushed the farthest ball. The observers chose the nearest one. Same goal, fewer steps, less energy. They watched, identified the inefficiency, and solved it better. Imagine going to a training seminar and immediately showing the instructor a better way to do it. Published in Science 2017, Queen Mary University of London. A 2024 Nature study confirmed bumblebees can socially learn behaviors too complex for any individual to invent alone. Culture in an insect. Social learning likely evolved from colony efficiency demands, bootstrapping from the waggle dance system used to share food source locations. A dog takes weeks to learn a trick. A toddler needs multiple demonstrations. This bee needed one, and then did it better, with a brain that weighs about as much as a grain of sand, under 1 million neurons, and it improved on its teacher. The memo about big brains is starting to look like misinformation. Less than 1 million neurons, and it's already providing unsolicited performance feedback. It watched, it learned, it did it better. And somewhere at Queen Mary University, a researcher had to write, "The bee outperformed the demonstration" in a serious scientific paper. The hummingbird. You forget where you parked your car. This bird remembers every flower it's visited, what was in it, and when it'll refill. The type of memory it uses was supposed to be exclusive to humans. Selasphorus rufus runs episodic-like memory, not just flowers are over there, but what was in each flower, where it sits in three-dimensional space, and when it'll produce more nectar. It learns a flower's position from a single visit lasting seconds, and returns even after the flower's removed. Evolution gave it a metabolism that requires eating every 10 to 15 minutes, then gave it a memory system sophisticated enough to never waste a single trip. Its hippocampal formation is disproportionately enlarged, and its brain-to-body ratio is among the highest of any bird. Smarter hummingbirds eat up to 6 times more efficiently than dumber ones. Episodic-like memory, the ability to recall specific past experiences, was once considered uniquely human, then grudgingly extended to a few primates. Finding it in a bird that weighs less than a nickel rewrote entire chapters of cognitive science. Many think hummingbirds are just instinct-driven nectar machines. They're not. They learn flower locations from single visits, track refill timing, and adjust routes on the fly. That's cognitive mapping, not instinct. A human brain weighs 1,400 grams. An elephant's weighs 5,000. A hummingbird's weighs less than 1, and it's running a memory system tracking hundreds of data points in 3 dimensions. It weighs less than a nickel, but it's running a personal database more organized than your email inbox. Less than a gram of brain. Hundreds of flowers tracked in 3 dimensions. What exactly are the rest of us doing with our extra 85 billion neurons? The Cleaner Wrasse. You know what you look like. This 4-inch fish does too, and that's supposed to be impossible. It's the gold standard of animal cognition, and most species on Earth can't do it. What this fish did within 82 minutes of seeing a mirror for the first time made researchers question everything they thought they knew about consciousness. Labroides dimidiatus, the blue streak cleaner wrasse, is 4 inches long, and it passes the mirror self-recognition test, the same benchmark used for elephants, dolphins, and great apes. Researchers placed parasitic-looking marks on the fish in spots only visible in a mirror. The wrasse swam over, inspected the marks, then scraped them off against nearby surfaces. Average response time, 82 minutes from first exposure. Great apes took days. Elephants took hours. Dolphins needed multiple sessions. This 4-inch fish did it in 82 minutes on its first try. The researchers note this result challenges the assumption that self-awareness requires a large brain, which is the scientific equivalent of quietly panicking. Some wrasse even performed contingency testing, dropping shrimp in front of the mirror to watch the reflection. That behavior was previously documented only in dolphins. Cleaner wrasses survive by inspecting larger fish for parasites. Their niche demands precise visual inspection of surfaces. Self-recognition may have evolved not as abstract consciousness, but as a practical extension of a visual system already tuned to examine bodies in detail. Your goldfish probably can't do this, but at 4 inches, this fish is only slightly bigger than your goldfish. 4 inches. A brain smaller than a pea, and it looked in a mirror and knew it was looking at itself. Most animals with 1,000 times more brain can't do that. Every animal in this video was supposed to be too small, too simple, too tiny to think. And the smallest one just looked in a mirror and proved it knows exactly what it is. If this video changed how you think about small brains, consider subscribing. I cover the wildest corners of the animal kingdom every week. Thanks for watching.